Welcome to Housewarming, a fine line documentary series where we're looking at the impact of art in the home by having conversations with artists and their supporters. Today, we're checking out the home of artist Ivana, who's a recent OCADU grad, and we're joined by her mother, Martha. So they have a really interesting family history of artists. It's going to be a really interesting conversation today. Let's get into it. Thank you for coming. Hi.
Thank you for coming out here today.
Hi,
It's
welcome
nice
to our
to see you.
home.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Such a huge, beautiful house too. I'm noticing.
Thank you.
The first thing I'm drawn to in this space is definitely this piece because it's so colorful.
I know.
No, the artist is Patricia Espinosa, and she's a Mexican-American artist based in Brooklyn, New York. And she's wonderful. She's one of my mom's best friends, and that's who I stayed with when I was studying at Parsons in 2019, but also recently. When I was living in Baltimore, I would literally take the megabus and just go over to New York City, and I would just take the subway down to her place.
Yeah.
That's who I would stay with.
Do you know where this is?
Yeah, this is a mining town in Chile, actually.
Okay.
She told me,
Yeah.
Little town in Chile.
So colorful.
Yeah.
And I love the little tie-in with the pillow. I know it's a small detail, but it's just
Yeah.
that little splash of really vivid colors.
Yeah, well, in the winter here you need that, right? Which is why we have we
winter
try to
blues
have
are everywhere.
color here
Right?
everywhere.
Oh yeah, I feel you. And at this corner here in particular, there's this really subdued piece, but when I looked at it closely, it's got such intricacy to it.
Yeah, no, it's all watercolor, and it's from a Mexican-Canadian artist that's named Gabriela Campos, and she's based in Muskoka now. But this is all watercolor on paper, and she really, uses watercolor in a different way. It's not traditionally used. It's a new, different, unconventional approach to that medium. So it's wonderful.
I recognize this from GradX.
Yeah.
I know you exhibitioned in GradX. This is your big piece.
Yeah, so I'm one of the only drawers in the drawing and painting program, and so this piece is called Dejection Diptych. So diptych is just two pieces a part of a certain theme or a name as well. This really has to do with my own experience with post-traumatic stress disorder after a friend of mine passed away when I was 17. And so this was really me grappling and really trying to sort of close OCAD on a different note, in a sense where I first came in with a very fresh wound, and I felt a responsibility to showcase that you can heal through art.
Yeah.
So this was me sort of showing off battle scars in a different way, to really show that you can heal over time and with the right techniques and help.
That's really beautiful. When I first see this piece, it does have that raw quality to it. It really comes through, and it's got, I don't want to say a darkness, but with the shadows and everything, there is that sort of, like you said, grappling with something.
Yeah, no, and it really touches upon the term chiaroscuro, that is life. So I really wanted to emphasize that and showcase that there are two sides to trauma. Once when you actually experience it, and then how you deal with it after. So this really shows both sides of that. And so for me particularly, what I really love is that eye in particular, on the right-hand side in the black, because that really shows my own response to that trauma.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's a very beautiful piece, and lovely to see what you did with what you were going through.
Thank you.
You must be so proud of her.
I am, yes.
Seeing what she's
Yes.
doing. Wow. Well, I'd love to see more of the house. This is an interesting little corner. Right when you enter your house, you see this. It's a wanted sign from the Wild Wild West. Is there any kind of story there?
Yes, there is a very interesting story there. So that's an original wanted sign for Pancho Villa. And he definitely was a key figure, especially in the north of Mexico. And that's a wanted sign because he crossed the border into the U.S. to, steal weapons and stuff, and then went back into Mexico. And, the Americans went looking for him, and they really wanted to catch him because they felt so offended that their territory had been invaded by the revolutionary forces of Pancho Villa. But he was very clever, and he knew the territory way better than the Americans, so he actually had fun sending some troops here over there, to distract them, and then they thought he was there and he was laughing over here about them and all that. They never caught him. It's a big shame on them. And it's a story that I adore. And then my mom received that as a present a long time ago, and she was like, "What am I gonna do with that?" And I was like, "It's mine," So it's been mine ever since, and I love it. So I thought, everyone who comes into this house needs to know we're Mexican. That's why everything we have here is all Mexican art, and related to our home country, because we love Canada, but this is also who we are.
Yeah. Now there's so much color over here in this little corner between this and all the tchotchkes on top.
Yeah, so these are called artesanías. So these are all handmade artisan products that you find in Mexico, but these are all like artist pieces. So this all have to do with the Genesis, the book of Genesis, and different trees of life. So this is very cultural of Mexico. And La Catrina, skeleton woman, she's fantastic. And these dolls you find in Mexico marketplaces all the time as well. But these are really difficult to find and then bring them back. So this is really our Mexican artisan hub here. And just below that is a painting that I just sold. It will be heading to Norway.
Congrats.
Thank you. So it will be going to a Mexican household in Norway, in Oslo. And the name of it is Obstruction of the Land, Mexican Homeland. And really, I did this during the pandemic when I was living in downtown, when it was still like lockdowns happening all the time. And really, the colors were inspired by the Poliform Cultural Siqueiros in Mexico City, which is like a building that Siqueiros did murals in. And they're beautiful. And so that color palette there inspired me to create this. And then, of course, to have it almost aligned in a linear way to represent the Mexican blankets and different things that you would find in Mexico all over the place. So that's really an homage to that. And really to bring some color into my life during a dark period of lockdowns.
It's like you were saying with the winter and COVID. Color is important. It's it has its own magic, doesn't it? I've noticed this piece in the corner because it looks like your artwork. With the pencil and everything. Is this one of your pieces?
Yes. So this piece is called Mad Shadows, and really it has to do with bringing awareness to domestic abuse. And really I did this piece when I was about 17, 18, when I was applying to OCAD actually. And on the portfolio review day in January, I brought everything with me, and I brought that piece in particular. And the next day, I got an email saying that the portfolio portion had been waived, I had been accepted, and that I was given the Mercedes-Benz Financial Services Scholarship.
That's amazing.
Covered my whole tuition, so it was really amazing.
That must have been some good news to get.
Yes. I began OCAD with a really great drawing, and I ended it with a really good drawing as well. So
you can really see
nice.
sort of the journey too in the two pieces. Any stories behind these two?
Yes, well, these are Siqueiro prints as well, and Siqueiros was a very important Mexican muralist and painter. And these belong to my dad, and I actually bought those from him. I didn't snatch them like that.
We bought them just last year.
I bought them. We bought them from him because he's a huge art collector and lover and everything. But those, I grew up looking at those, and I miss them. So I asked him, "Can I please, buy them from you?" And then he was like, "Okay." So we brought them. Bringing all of this artwork and the things all the way from Mexico to Canada is never easy. It's like a snail, kind of operation where you can bring one thing now, and then maybe a friend comes and you say, "Can you please maybe bring that?" So
go to our parents' house and bring it
little by little. Like everything you see here is the result of 20 years of trips, right? Coming and going,
collective efforts,
bringing things here and there. Yeah, because there's no other way.
Wow, that's so true. Well, I mean, it sounds like you guys have such an interesting heritage and like family history, so I'd love to sit down with you and learn a little bit more about that. Are you a writer, Martha?
I am a writer, a published author, and I started writing and publishing when I was a year younger than Ivana.
Wow.
And this project here that you're talking about,
Yeah.
Mother the Verb, is a very special book. I'll show it to the camera. It's an anthology edited by a dear friend and fellow author from Exile Editions, Linda Rogers. She decided to invite different writers and artists to collaborate in this anthology talking about motherhood. So there's a written text by me in there, accompanied by a couple of images from Ivana. So that was lovely to have that collaboration there in that book.
That is so cool.
Very special, yes.
It was during the pandemic, actually. So we were all in lockdown. It was like maybe April 2020 when we got approached, and so this is all on my iPad because like we couldn't go like to art stores or anything like that just yet.
Oh God, I didn't even think of how.
Yeah, so I went on Procreate and made these.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so these are all just digital drawings.
They don't look like digital drawings. That's really interesting. Wow, that's so cool. But so you have musicians, you have writers, you're a visual artist. So what was like, did you ever think, okay, I want to be a writer like my mom, or a musician, or like how did you land on being a visual artist?
So actually the story is really funny. I have a book that I adored when I was a kid, and it was about these two sister witches, and for context, I'm a twin.
Is it Twitches?
No, yeah.
I know this one.
Yeah, no, it was just a good witch and a bad witch, and so it was like them trying to get along or whatever. And so I was really drawn to the illustrations. And I remember being in Mexico, and I would take printer paper, put it over the drawings, and they were like dark enough so that I could still see. And I would trace them in Sharpie, and I was like maybe 6 years old. And my grandfather saw that, and so it was really cool is that like he talked to my parents and he was like, is she in art classes? And they were like, no, you know, we put them in skating or I don't know what, ballet, whatever. And so he was like, no, you need to put her in an art class. She's drawing books over and over again. And I lost the illustrations sadly, but I still have the book. And so ever since then, I've been going to art classes in person, always, you know, my whole childhood. And then I landed going to the Richmond Hill Art School. So really, like, the biggest supporters of my whole career are my parents, really. And my grandfather really pointed that out at an early age. So that was really, really fortunate for me. It just, you know, comes full circle from the family really pointing out certain things. But in terms of illustrating and just really drawing, I found it as a really good outlet, especially in high school. And when my friend passed away, that was also a really good thing for me in a sense where like I was able to draw and like have like a visual outlet to let out anger. So I was in mural club. I was doing theater. I was designing sets on my own and actually building them and doing all of that. So the stage really became my oasis. It was like away from the hallways that's about like trenches, and it was really a way for me to just let my creativity explode. So yeah, that was before OCAD.
I love like when parents really nourish like an artistic kid, and you have that in your family, but like sometimes like it'll be the opposite for parents, right? They'll be like, no, you shouldn't be going into art. Like, was it important for you to sort of hand that down to your daughter, that appreciation of art?
Yes, I think that sadly we live in a society that more and more thinks that the arts are dispensable, that it's a luxury, that it's something that is not to be taken seriously. And then it's very sad because I thought that maybe the pandemic was going to change that mindset, because people survived watching movies and reading books and listening to music, and guess who does that? The same artists that people, you know, usually despise unless they are super famous and rich, right? So because I grew up in a family where, you know, the arts were the backbone and really what sustained us, I know it's possible to do it, and I also know how hard it is. So no one can say it's easy. And obviously there is that uncertainty, but I also think that if the entire world detaches from our humanity, our shared humanity, and we stop nourishing children's thirst for self-expression and for the arts, what we develop is a society full of psychos. There should be a balance between, you know, productivity, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't be productive, you know, between that and the arts. I think that if we don't give food for our soul, we're gonna end up being a very wretched society and nation.
I totally agree
So
with
that for me, for my kids, was important to give them that outlet.
you know, being an artist here sometimes feels hard in some ways depending on what you're doing, but like traveling and like your heritage seems like a big part of like what you do with your art and how you honor your art. So speaking of honoring your heritage and honoring your artwork, we actually have, or Ivana has, a little thank you present for you.
So this is my first lithograph of me and my sister together. We're monoamniotic twins, which is a very rare set of twins. And a lithograph is a very difficult form of printmaking. It is one of the hardest ways to print, but it's mass-produced drawings, basically, to say it all short. But I think there's about 50 or 60 prints that I've made. So
Whoa,
this is one of them. Yeah.
I love that it's you and your sister. Well, we got such a big house, we can find somewhere for it.
I'm sure I will find out, you know, you see, as you can see, minimalism is not us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna find a good spot for this for sure. Thank you.
Well, thank you too so much for having us here and for sitting down with this conversation. It's really beautiful to see families supporting each other artistically. Like I said, sometimes it's hard to find, and it's really great you're encouraging your daughter to continue with the arts. And thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, Evangeline, for coming here, and thanks to, you know, your crew and everyone and the people who watch this episode. We want to thank them too, and encourage them to foster the arts, support the arts, and support the young artists, and buy their pieces while they're still alive.
Yeah,
right?
True. We want to thank Ivana and Martha for welcoming us into your home, and be sure to check out Ivana's work at the fineline.art marketplace, and we'll see you in the next episode.